Long before planes or trains, the Silk Road connected distant worlds, China, Rome, India, and beyond. But here's the secret. It wasn't a single road, but a vast web of routes stretching across continents. For over 1,500 years, this network was the lifeblood of empires, moving not just goods but people, ideas, and cultures. Merchants, monks, artists, and explorers all traveled these paths, sharing stories, food, and knowledge. The Silk Road was where civilizations met, mingled, and changed each other forever. The name Silk Road is modern, but silk truly was the star. So precious in the West it was worth its weight in gold. Yet, the Silk Road was always more than a trade route. It was a living, shifting web of human connection. It crossed deserts, mountains, and seas, driven by curiosity and the desire to discover what lay beyond the horizon. This network didn't just move goods, it moved history. The Silk Road laid the foundation for our globalized world, showing that connection and exchange shape civilizations. It was a superhighway of ideas, ambition, and adventure, and its legacy still echoes in the world today. The Silk Road story begins with a diplomat, not a merchant, Xi'an. In 138 BCE, the Han Emperor sent Xi'an west to find allies against northern nomads. Captured and held for years, Xi'an learned new languages and customs, but never forgot his mission. After a daring escape, he reached Central Asia and discovered the legendary heavenly horses, a treasure for China's cavalry. 13 years later he returned to China, not with allies, but with something more valuable knowledge. He described rich civilizations, exotic goods, and powerful horses, sparking the emperor's imagination. The Han dynasty seized the opportunity, expanding west, building forts, and protecting new trade routes. Safe corridors allowed the first caravans to travel, and the Silk Road was born. Xi'an's failed mission became a spectacular success, opening China to the wider world. Through his journey, a river of silk, spices, and ideas began to flow. East and West were now connected as never before. The Silk Road's true journey had begun. The Silk Road was a tangled braid of trails adapting to geography and politics. Caravans started in Chang'an, skirted the deadly Taklamakan Desert, and passed through oasis cities like Dunhuang and Kashgar. After the desert, travelers faced the towering Pamir Mountains before descending into Central Asia's legendary cities, Samarkand, Bukhara. From there, routes led through Persia to the Mediterranean, where goods sailed to Europe. But the Silk Road wasn't just overland. Sea routes, the Maritime Silk Road, connected China to Southeast Asia, India, Arabia, and Africa. Monsoon winds guided ships across the Indian Ocean, linking distant ports and cultures. Land and sea routes intertwined, allowing goods to travel from Indonesia to Rome. Geography was harsh, but human ingenuity kept the world connected. The Silk Road was a living network, always adapting, always moving. The Silk Road was the world's most exotic marketplace. From China came silk, porcelain, tea, paper, and gunpowder, treasures that changed the world. In return, the West sent glassware, gold, silver, wool, and from Central Asia, the prized heavenly horses. India exported spices and gems. The Middle East sent dates, saffron, and pistachios. Trade was a relay. Chinese merchants sold silk to Sogdian traders who passed it west, changing hands many times. Few ever traveled the entire route, but each link in the chain grew wealthy. Oasis cities like Kashgar and Samarkand thrived, becoming cosmopolitan centers of trade and culture. The wealth from trade built palaces, libraries, and armies, transforming societies along the way. Merchants were diverse: Sogdians, Jews, Armenians, Indians, all with their own networks. The Silk Road was more than a path for luxury goods. It was an engine of economic growth. It turned remote towns into bustling cities and funded the rise of empires. Every caravan was a gamble, but the rewards were immense. The Silk Road's business changed the world. The Silk Road's greatest cargo wasn't silk or spices, it was ideas. Religions like Buddhism spread from India to China, carried by monks and pilgrims. Art, music and technology flowed both ways. Papermaking, printing, gunpowder, and the compass all traveled west. Artistic styles blended, Greek, Persian, Indian, creating new forms like the Gandhara Buddha. Musical instruments and languages mixed, enriching cultures from Persia to China. The Silk Road was a laboratory of innovation, where new ideas were born and old ones transformed. But not all exchanges were positive. Diseases like the Black Death also traveled these routes, changing history in tragic ways. The Silk Road connected fates as well as fortunes. It was a double-edged sword, a source of progress and peril. The invisible exchanges shaped civilizations for centuries. The Silk Road was the world's first true marketplace of ideas. Traveling the Silk Road was a test of endurance and courage. The Taklamakan Desert's shifting sands could swallow caravans whole. Water was a rare treasure. The Pamir and Tian Shan mountains loomed with snow, avalanches, and thin air. Altitude sickness was a constant threat. Bandits and raiders haunted remote passes, making every journey a gamble. Merchants traveled in large caravans, hiring guards for protection, but safety was never guaranteed. The journey could take months or years, with food and water strictly rationed. Disease, exhaustion, and psychological stress wore travelers down. Many vanished along the way, their stories lost to the sands and snows. Yet, every piece of silk that reached Rome, every glass that reached China, was proof of human resilience. The Silk Road was a path of opportunity, but also of hardship and loss. Nature and man both posed dangers at every turn. Only the bravest and most determined survived the journey. The risks were immense, but so were the rewards. The Silk Road's dangers shaped the character of those who traveled it. Every successful journey was a triumph over adversity. In the 13th century, the Mongol Empire united almost the entire Silk Road under one rule. Genghis Khan and his successors created the largest land empire in history, stretching from the Pacific to Europe. The Mongols valued trade, crushing bandits and building relay stations for safe travel. This era, the Pax Mongolica, brought unprecedented stability and security. Merchants, missionaries, and diplomats traveled freely, and trade flourished as never before. Marco Polo's legendary journey to China happened during this golden age, inspiring Europe with tales of the East. The Mongol peace turned the Silk Road into a true superhighway of goods and ideas. For a brief, brilliant century, the world was more connected than ever. The Silk Road reached its peak, linking continents in a web of commerce and culture. The Pax Mongolica faded as the Mongol Empire fractured and new powers rose. The Ottoman Empire's expansion made overland trade costly and dangerous. Meanwhile, European explorers found new sea routes, using compasses and maps that had once traveled the Silk Road. Ships could carry more cargo, faster and cheaper than any caravan. By the late 15th century, the Silk Road's great caravans dwindled and its cities faded into history. But the Silk Road's legacy endured. The religions, technologies, and cultural habits it spread continued to shape societies long after the last caravan. Today, new projects like the Belt and Road Initiative aim to reconnect Asia, Europe, and Africa. The spirit of the Silk Road lives on in our globalized world. Its story is a reminder of the power of connection and exchange. The Silk Road changed the world, and its influence is still felt today.